Hi, welcome to the second out of 4 videos of our Virtual Exhibition 101 series. My name is Marina, founder of GBTH, a resident-based art incubator here in Second Life, established in 2017. If you missed the first video, which I highly suggest checking out, the series is focused on sharing with the community guidelines and methodologies that we use here at GBTH, gathered over 6 years of experimentation and learning. The idea is to cover key aspects of Second Life's technicalities in an accessible and uncomplicated way in the hope that you will empower the community to embark on their artistic endeavors. We're excited to make available, free of charge, the insights that were previously exclusive to individual artist consultations, all thanks to the generous sponsors of this series: Bad Unicorn, Conch Island, Contraption, Deep Static, Fancy Decor, High Five, and Soy. You can find more about them in the video description. In the second video, I'll guide you through land-related info and settings that will assist you and your visitors directly. Let's start by understanding regions and parcels. Second Life is divided into 256 by 256 by 4,000 meter islands that we also call regions or sims. The actual size is the same for all. What changes is the capacity to host more objects inside. Homesteads can host up to 5K, and full regions offer either 20 or 30K. The number of avatars allowed in each space also varies, up to 20 on a homestead, 100 on either 20 or 30K, and 175 for Event Pro 30K regions. Within a region, parcels can be made, which is basically dividing the land for better control, distinct ownership, rentals, etc. For an art space or gallery, you could really go for either, depending on how much you're willing to invest to keep it running and also how many exhibits you want to host. As I mentioned in the first video, in Second Life things tend to fall on the oversized side of things, so it means that you can achieve great results even on a smaller piece of land. Also, please keep in mind the maturity ratings of the land you pick. For a gallery, I would advise at least being moderate. I moved up to our platform that is 3,750 meters above the ground to show better this little trick I put together here. Please notice that this is to be used only if you're in a private full region, never on the mainland, and if you're on a shared private region, please check with your landlord. Also, make sure it is at least 2,000 meters above the ground. The minimal parcel size you can cut is 4x4, aka one of these red squares is spread all over the platform. I managed to lay the grid so accurately here by making this very simple image in Photoshop of a white square outlined in red, then placing it in this 256 by 256 megaprim, and setting both horizontal and vertical scales to 64, since 4 meters is the only you can go. 256 divided by 4 equals 64. This example here is more for illustrative purposes. When I closed the GBTH to redesign the whole region, I actually had this mega prim on the ground to make parceling easier. Being able to see where I wanted the parcels to be helped for a cleaner land subdivision, as you can see from the precise placement of the units in the center to the spacing from the pavilions. And this can be really useful if you own a full region and want to design a better layout for the venues in it. So let's make a parcel. First, what you can do is press Ctrl or Command plus B to open preferences. Then you go to Firestorm, Build To, and check Show Boundary up to maximum build height. It just makes life easier when you're building, and if it gets too disruptive, just disable it through the same steps. I'll move to the ground for this example, so you can also use this method in case you're in a shared region. If you're using the Firestorm viewer, just type GTH35 on local chat. The GTH stands for Go to Height, and 35 is the height I like to go to. It is a neat little shortcut that I use quite often, but it won't work on land that has a fixed landing point. Let's get the water out of our way temporarily so we can see the ground more clearly. If you don't have your advanced menu show me at the top of the screen, go to Preferences by clicking Ctrl P, click on the Advanced tab and check that Show Advanced Menu box. Now, click the Advanced menu, Rendering Types, Water, or the shortcut Ctrl-Alt-Shift-7. For more precision, I'll map out with prims where I want to parcel using the Snap to Grid feature on the building window. In Edit mode, click the arrow near Snap and change the first value to 4, which makes the prim move according to the grid we have up in the platform. With your prim selected, You see these two duos of triangles here. Just click and drag around the green and red one. Press Shift and drag to make copies of the prim. I'll spice it up by adding some intentional corners instead of making a perfect rectangle. Once we got all mapped out, switch to the bulldozer on the Edit menu, or right-click and select Edit Terrain. You can only subdivide the terrain in rectangles, so for this case we will need to first separate them. With Select Land, click and drag on the ground to make the selection of the area desired, and then click Subdivide when you're happy with it. Here on the minimap, you can see that 3 parcels have been just made side by side, but we want it to be one sort of irregular parcel. To achieve that, click and drag another land selection and make sure that it goes through all the parcels that you just made, then click Join. Boom, you're all set. The same process works to reunite the parcel you just created. Important to notice that dividing the region in parcels can only be done horizontally. Up until the time this video has been published, there are no possibilities of dividing them vertically. Also, the destination guide, which is the official directory of places to visit in Second Life, requires the minimal parcel size to be 512 square meters, which here at GBTH are the sizes of the units. I'll get more in depth about the destination guide in the last video of the series. For now, it's just interesting info. Okay, now that you've learned how to subdivide and rejoin your land with precision and grace, let's get into land settings. Parceling the region allows you to have multiple distinct land settings, and you can customize them to the needs of each exhibition. It is important to remember that you can only subdivide or change the info on the land window if you own the parcel or if it has been deeded to a group in which you have a role in it that allows such changes. The first tab is the general one. Here, you set the name, description, and possibly a group for the parcel. Since the GBTH is in this whole region, for each dedicated space, I divided a parcel and named it accordingly and added a title and the name of the artist in it. For example, here at the Unit 5, we're currently displaying Ren Matsura's chromatic Dreamscape, as you can see at the top of the screen. I also added a short description of it with a URL to this exhibitions page on our website. On the main parcel, I added some keywords at the bottom of the description so it gets easier to find it on search. For the group, I set the GBTH one, but didn't deed to it because I didn't want to have multiple groups for the GBTH, since group slots are limited, and deeding to the general group makes it harder to control once it's open for anyone to join. You can have a closed land management group and deed the land to it so other residents can have access to the land settings. In the Objects tab, you see the information regarding the objects in the land, how many you're using, how much you have left, the capacity for the specific parcel, and so on. Another useful feature on this tab is the object owners right here at the bottom. You can click this refresh button and it will list the names and the capacity usage of everyone who rests something at the parcel. It is quite handy to not only keep track of the usage of each person, but also once an exhibition is over, you can simply click Return to send back the objects the artist rezzed. The auto return I always keep disabled because inside the galleries I disable object entry once the exhibition is finished. In the Options tab, you get to determine what can be done or not to the land or parcel. What I do by standard is revoking the ability of third parties rezzing objects once an exhibition is completed to avoid any interference with the work presented, and only allowing scripts to be run by everyone. Down here, you get to select if the parcel is safe, if you'd like to show it on search to the cost of 30 linden per week, reinforce the moderate content in it, select the category, and if you'd like avatars outside the parcel interacting with those who are inside of it. You can add an image to the parcel. The aspect ratio for it is 3:2, and it's the image that will be associated with your land for cases like show and search, if you select this option, and also if someone decides to create a pic on their profile of this location. Lastly, on this tab, we have landing point. This is probably one of the key advantages of having the spaces separated by parcels, because even if they have an older landmark, you can decide where your visitors will land when they teleport in, giving more freedom over the flow of the exhibition and assuring they'll land at the start, no matter where it is within the parcel. In the Sound tab is where you set the stream URL for your land, in case you need one. Usually, I remove the stream after the opening party so it won't interfere with the work. There are cases in which the exhibition has a soundtrack to it, like in Walton Wainwright's amalgamation at the Exhibition Pavilion 2, which makes an exception to this rule. It is also good policy to restrict sounds and media to the parcel only, so it isn't disruptive with the other spaces. On the Access tab, you can restrict who can get in the parcel or not. To restrict visitors from accessing it, uncheck the first two boxes and add manually the names in the Always Allowed window. In case you have a land management group deeded to the land, just keep the second box checked and only the members of said group will have access to it. The only occasion in which we restrict access here is when we are setting up a new exhibition, another key reason why dividing parcels is a major deal for us. Just keep in mind that people in the region can still zoom inside and see the content. Last but definitely not least, we have the Environments tab. Now, each parcel can have its own custom sky settings ever since the EEP, Environmental Enhancement Project, has been implemented, taking the place of the former wind light. Aside from the settings on the ground, you can add 3 more vertically on the height set on the region stage window. If your gallery is in the sky, just check the height it is once you're standing on it and simply select the EEP you want to use from your inventory and drag it in place. Alternatively, if the exhibition is in different heights and you'd like to assign a distinct EEP to each, you can by following the same steps. For best practice and tips, be mindful of your surroundings. Triple check that your stuff isn't disrupting your neighbors and that you're not breaking the rules of the place nor Second Life's terms of service. If you're renting from a third-party business, always check their covenant. Make sure you can host a gallery and events in the region you're considering moving, since some are just residential or have specific uses. And that brings us to the end of the second video. On the next one, I'll be setting up an exhibition of selected works and sharing the thought process with you. See you then!